on that. Like, that's good. Why rethink that? But before I let Todd take over, I just want to say that we do have the two finalists in the room as well. If you could show yourselves, Anita Salucci, there she is. Thank you. And Christina Holzweiss is here from his 2015 year. Laura Gardner. Yeah. Who else is here? Andy's there? Okay. And Colleen. Colleen just left. Yeah, I wasn't sure who was still in the room, so thank you. So, at any rate, this award has been really exciting for us to do. It's very competitive, but we still ask you to submit. And we are looking forward to another great round next year. And we think that this profession has so much to offer education in general and each other and our kids, and there's no one more inspiring than those among you who are doing the work at the highest level. So keep doing it, we'll keep watching, and off to Todd. Thanks.
Good morning. Good morning. Is this the clicker?
That's the clicker.
This is the clicker. Okay, here we go. So the topic they gave me, they assigned me 3 weeks ago, by the way. So I don't know about you guys, but if you're doing a presentation, I was still working on it yesterday, but they asked me to send my slides in 3 weeks ago. So the slides and I might not exactly collaborate, but we're going to do our best. I'm going to start with, first I just want to say thank you. I want to thank School Library Journal and Scholastic for this incredible opportunity. Being named School Library Journal's School Librarian of the Year has given me a tremendous opportunity to share the work that we as librarians do every single day with an even larger audience. I hope to spend the rest of this year encouraging and highlighting that work and bringing awareness of the critical importance of trained librarians and progressive educational practices for all students. I think we should clap. I couldn't accept this award without acknowledging the most important people in my world, my family. Unfortunately, they're not here today, but hopefully someone's recording this and I'll be able to share it with them later today. They're scattered across the country right now. I also want to take a minute and thank my community where I work, for both the school district, the parents, the teachers, and most importantly, the students who I've collaborated with over the past few years. The saying, "It takes a village," is really, truly, honestly true. I'm going to begin with a quick video. It's about 3 minutes long, and I thought it would be appropriate to take a look at where libraries were, kind of where they're going, and then looking forwards even more. So hopefully you'll recognize yourself or maybe a library of the past, and maybe even as the movie nears its end, you'll notice a few of the spaces of the future. I think I'm going to push play, and hopefully there'll be a video playing here. Can we turn the volume on? Thank you. Shh. Use your inside voice.
I'm looking for a book on television, but I forgot.
Do you know the author?
No, I don't, and I don't know the title either. But it's a blue book, and it kind of gives the whole story.
Specially trained librarians are always developing newer resources and educational uses of microfilm, motion picture film, and other visual materials, such as posters and pamphlets.
Whoa! Look at all these books! Where am I? Maybe this is one of those libraries. But if this is a library, then... Hey, wait a second! Who are you? This is the library. Come and have a seat. Let's take a trip. You won't have to leave with me. So much media.
you will find that there can be great variety and interest, as well as security in this career. Your abilities will be challenged, but you will be rewarded with real pleasure from your work, salaries comparable with those of similar professions, and opportunities for advancement.
Dick could hardly wait to show Eddie the books he had found. But most important of all, Dick had found that the library was an exciting place, a friendly place, and Eddie was finally convinced too. The library had books that he liked. It has books that everybody likes. Why, the library is like a playground, with the gates always open for you to come in and enjoy yourself. Why don't you get acquainted with the library? After all, it's your library.
After all, it's your library, right? So that was a lot of fun to put together. If you guys don't know about Prelinger's archives or archives.org, you can go and find all these hilarious films about your profession as well as just about anything else. One of my favorites is School Safety on the Playground. It's a must-see. So, recently in preparing for this, I came across a review of a conference that was held in Ireland last spring by Martin O'Connor, and he wrote, I love the title. It was The Library of the Future of the Library. And in his conclusion, he said, with the right mindset, the right skill set, and the right technological tools, the library of the future will be more dynamic than ever. And looking at that awesome video or movie of watching the microfiche and the other audiovisual symbols, what we've seen in the past couple days is mind-blowing compared to where we were 50, 60 years ago. So this leads me to wonder out loud, what are those skill sets and what are the tools? Where do we get them? How do we know how to use them? What does the library of the future look like? To me, the answer is rooted in place. The answer is connected to the most important word in any library world, community. This summer, I had the fantastic opportunity to join several dozen high school students on a mission trip to inner city Detroit. One of our jobs was, there was a vacant lot that had been overgrown, and they promised us that underneath it was a blacktop. And they run a bike program in one of the facilities that we were working at, and what they did is they taught kids how to build bikes. But in inner city Detroit, it isn't exactly bike friendly. So there's no place in Detroit where kids can safely ride a bike. And so the center, which is actually in this picture you can see there, is actually across the street from this vacant lot. They got permission from the city to clear the lot and make a safe place for kids to be able to ride the bikes that they just learned to build. So that was our mission. We were told, you have a couple days, we'd love for you guys to clear this lot. It was one of the hottest days of the summer. It was about 106 in the shade. I was with 24 complaining teenagers, and they worked a lot. They worked hard, but you can kind of see in this picture, this is about halfway through our day. The whole right side had 8-foot-tall thistles and briars and just tons and tons and tons of garbage. And so you can kind of see it about halfway through. And you can see, I hope you can see on the images there that just next to it, if you look on the image here on the far, far right corner, you see a short, squat building. And if you look really carefully, you can see that it says Detroit Public Library. We couldn't believe how hot it was. We were literally, we were all just melting. And as the teenagers continued to complain and complain and complain, and I was the only adult in the group, I said, okay, you know what? Let's go get a little shade here. And so we saw the building over there, but honestly, none of us really paid any attention to the fact that it was a library. And so we walked in, and when we walked in, we realized, holy cow, this is a library. And for many people, this is one of those spots where they can go to get cool in the summer. Well, we came into a stifling hot building. It was still considerably 30 degrees cooler than it was outdoors, but it was clear that the air conditioning had recently died. What amazed us was that as we walked in, there were folks jammed in this library, in this inner city Detroit library. There were eager folks working on job applications. There was a section where people could work on resumes. There was a spot where adults were taking computer classes. And there was even a story time happening back in one corner of this teeny tiny library. There was also a sign on the window, which I don't know if you can even see. It kind of broke my heart to read on the window as we were going in. But it says free, fun, summer reading club activities. I think it says Tuesday 5:30 to 6:30. And then children's lunches from 4:30 to 5:30, which is awful late for lunch. But if it's the only meal you get every day, it's pretty powerful. And then prizes for book reports anytime. And as these 24 high school students and I walked in, and we're just literally coated in sweat, we put on our wet t-shirts and walked in, and the librarian who was there, I don't know if we had ESP, if somehow I just knew that she knew I was a librarian, and she came up to me and said, "Are you a librarian?" I happen to be, and she said, "Well, what are all these kids here for?" And I said, "Well, we've been working on this lot for the last 4 hours." And she said, "You don't know how important that is going to be for these kids. It's amazing. These kids are going to have a safe place to go." And about an hour later into the afternoon, when the kids started complaining liberally again, the librarian offered us the greatest gift you can give, popsicles. And she said to us, at this point the lot was nearly completely closed or empty, she said, not only do we give bikes away in our community, we give books, but now the kids are going to have a safe place to be. And so when I talk about community and connection, I think that this library speaks volumes to me about what that really means. That this woman who was working in there had at least 10 different programs happening at the same time. And to walk into a city, which I'm from Chicago, so we always hear Detroit is in horrible shape and it's depressed and all of this. I was blown away by not only the amount of people in that library, but the fantastic stuff that was being done in this teeny tiny branch of the Detroit Public Library. Where am I pointing this thing? Oh, okay, there we go, good. Sorry. Libraries are no longer the only source of information. However, they are the place where trained librarians can help us all make sense of it. It's essential that we collaborate with all of our stakeholders. People don't have to come to the library anymore, but we want to try to get them to the library. Librarians provide the roadmap, and school libraries of the future are going to look different. I love what Christina Holsquist, last year's School Librarian of the Year, said when she called her library a laboratory. Before I even thought about that I could even be in her spot a year later, I stole that word and started using it in my school. And the kids love using it because they're like, "Yeah, we have a laboratory." And everybody's like, "What?" Like, "We have a blended library and a laboratory." So they love saying that because whenever visitors are in the room, it always makes them think. But we use that term laboratory because it's a blend. Our library has grown and changed and evolved. I love this quote because it makes me think about how do these spaces. Thank you, I got the 2-minute warning. Wow. All right, I'm almost done, I promise. Our library, somebody gave up minutes though, so I should get a couple extra. Our library really does look like the library of the future, or the workspace of the future. It makes me think, coffee, we are hearing an awful lot right now about how libraries and classrooms, in fact, coffee is only the start of the future for our libraries. Why does the 21st century library look like a Starbucks? Or why does the 21st century classroom look like a Starbucks? Well, as the biggest classroom in our school, the library should be reflecting those same sort of changes that we're seeing in the world. I love this. This was a great article. In the future, everything will be a coffee shop. And it made me think, what is it? What is it about this research? In the future, apparently, everything will be a coffee shop. But I actually agree with this concept because what it says to me is we need to look at places like Starbucks and our family bookstores. And what is it that makes us all want to stay there? I mean, for me, it's procrastination, doing the projects that I don't want to do. But it's also that steady stream of coffee and that sense of collaboration that we can have. Most meetings that I have take place in the Starbucks or the independent coffee shop down the street. It's just a place where we can all meet and have that chance to collaborate. Not only should the physical space change, but we also need to continue, as we've heard so far this morning, to change our collection. One of the most exciting things I learned in this conference was about the type of books that can be QR coded and be put out for ultimate and complete open use by your library. That was mind-blowing to me. My digital library right now is fairly static. It doesn't get used as much as I'd like it to. So I'm excited to begin using QR codes and other types of ways to get kids to connect to the resources that we have. We can never underestimate the power of the person who provides that all-important human connection. It might be a gentle demonstration for a teacher who's trying to use a new application, or it could be teaching a teacher about the researcher tool in Google Docs. But what we do is provide that link for our teachers and our students. I realize they're giving me like the look, so I'm gonna have to speed through this, but I believe these will, what's that? No, that's right, so yeah. But the cardinal rule of a presenter is never read your slides, so I'm not gonna read this, but I want you to, if you have a chance to explore this quote a little bit more afterward, it basically talks about the fact that a makerspace, every library is a makerspace, whether you have that technological term or not. It is a makerspace because at its heart, a makerspace is simply a place where those pieces are put together. It might look like this. It might not. In school libraries of the future, librarians are tasked with finding new and creative ways to engage both teachers and students in the learning library environment. For me, this was a willingness to answer yes and. When the second grade teachers in my building overheard some of the older students doing a design challenge, they wondered with me if the students could create something that would transport giant sets of books that they wanted to share with other classes. Well, what ensued was a project in which the second graders researched various methods and designs. They built prototypes using rigamajig, and they learned that sometimes designs don't work because they don't fit through the door, or you can't take them down the stairs. It was a huge construction project, and the students developed the final design. They helped me set up our cut list, and for that day, our library turned into a workshop. And in fact, the article about the school librarian of the year starts with the quote, keep the robots out of the sawdust. That comes from this day where fourth graders were planning choreography in one corner, and they accidentally drove them into the sawdust that was created in the middle of the library, and one of the fourth graders yelled out, keep the robots out of the sawdust. And I thought, I wonder if that quote has ever been uttered in a library before. And I thought, I have truly been successful. So even though I'm not going to read a lot of my quotes, I'm going to read this one, and I'm nearly finished. The central purpose of this new learning environment is to encourage curiosity, untrammeled by preconceptions or indeed physical barriers. First of all, I read that because I had never used the word untrammeled out loud. And also, I think that the physical space needs to change and evolve with us as well. And we skipped a slide there, which is totally cool. This is the power-up bar in my library. It used to just be a flat circulation desk, but we added a bar top, bar stools, a K-cup machine, and every power charger that a teacher might need. This is where osmotic collaboration happens. Teachers hear about what's happening in our library because they're hanging out there during their planning time. And so they hear about things that are going on, and that's where the whole idea of the wagon project came from. I didn't come up with it. The teacher overheard it and said, can we do that? A space like this, how many of you would like to spend some time with a group in this small group? It's exciting, it's reflective of what we're looking at in the spaces around us today. This one too, I love the fact that there's all sorts of different seating. This just to me screams order and organization, but also collaboration and a chance to hang out with people and collaborate together. The last thing I'm going to say is that what does the Library of the Future look like? To me, it's a space that encourages collaboration. It's a space that celebrates its community. And lastly, it's a space that celebrates and develops connections. One thing is for sure, the heart of the Library of the Future is certified and passionate librarians. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
That's a wrap. Thank you so much.